Avatar: The Last Airbender sets a beautiful stage for a very compelling story, but there are still some unresolved issues even after all these years. Like, why did everybody hate Avatar Roku so much? Let's talk about it. Hey friends and family members, I'm Megan, and welcome back to the Fangirl, where I address the questions that nobody really cares about. Sure, Korra was tough, Wan was cool, and Kyoshi flat out murdered people, but what about the gentle, boring, fan non-favorite Avatar Roku? I know, some of you are looking at me right now scratching your heads because you have no memory of who Roku is. Why is the fangirl talking about the fire stick in my TV? So let me refresh those memories. Avatar Roku was Aang's predecessor, and he's most well known for being so passive that he allowed the Fire Nation to start a 100-year attack on all other nations. In fact, if you've ever paid attention to the opening credits, the world seemingly believed that the previous Avatar, Avatar Roku, was still alive. The intro does not show a young Aang disappearing when the world needed him most. We only see Roku going AWOL. And that does bring up some interesting issues because when the Avatar dies and gets reincarnated, the normal practice is to not tell the new Avatar who they are until they turn 16. Now, Aang got told early because the 100-Year War was amping up, and Korra was born just so overpowered that no one could really hide it from her. So those two are a special circumstance, but ideally the Avatar would know nothing about who they were until they turned 16 and got ready to train around the world. And that was primarily done for safety reasons so that nobody could track down a baby Avatar and then slaughter him or her before they had a chance to really come into their power. If the average public did know that an infant was the Avatar, I mean, they could keep the Avatar at bay forever just by killing them over and over and over again, which is exactly what Zahir tried to do to Korra, so it's a legit problem. But assuming that avatars are reborn immediately after they die, that would still leave about a 20-year span where there's no Avatar at all. Because, you know, you spend the first 16 years growing up not knowing you're the Avatar, and then you need all that other time to train. So here's this pretty old man, his home island essentially melts down, and somehow the world fails to put two and two together that this old man may have died in the chaos. And of course that is exactly what happened, so why does nobody believe it? What's even stranger is that Sozin's grandson, Fire Lord Ozai, marries Roku's granddaughter Ursa, so obviously Roku had a family that survived. So why weren't they telling the world that, hey, my father passed on, he didn't abandon you? For whatever reason, his family just stayed quiet on the matter. I mean, I guess you can make the argument that the family would have stayed silent because they were afraid of the Fire Lord, or maybe there's even some unwritten rule we don't know about where the family of the previous Avatar stays quiet to keep the next Avatar safe. Although that does present some other issues too. Mainly, it's hard to keep a secret like the Avatar died when Sozin already knows about it. And we know that that's accurate because Sozin took that opportunity to destroy every airbender on the planet. Since the Avatar cycle is very consistent, it really didn't take much figuring for Sozin to understand that an air nomad would take over for Roku. And I really believe that Sozin's endgame was to keep killing the Avatar until it was reborn in the Fire Nation during his own lifetime again. If that were to happen, Sozin would then have the chance to raise the next Avatar as the Fire Nation's attack dog instead of a uniting force for the entire world. However, what does make me curious is that Sozin was really willing to gamble. How could he know what would happen when the Fire Nation armies killed all of the air nomads? If the next Avatar was supposed to be an airbender and now all the airbenders are gone, wouldn't that risk breaking the Avatar cycle and making it to where the next Avatar is never born? Although, I suppose that Sozin could have calculated for that issue too. Really, without an Avatar, the Fire Lord would be the most powerful person on Earth. So whether the Fire Nation got a new avatar or not, they were still winning as long as no other avatar resurfaced. But going back to Roku, why were people just so willing to believe that he abandoned them? Well, I think a lot of that has to do with Kyoshi, the previous avatar. Before Kyoshi was Avatar Karuk, and he was a member of the Water Tribe, but a pretty distracted guy due to personal issues. Karuk ended up dying at the age of 33, which nobody was prepared for. So when Kyoshi came into her avatar hood, she was a very welcome change of pace. Kyoshi was very solid, not just because she was an earthbender or that she was a good protector and balancer, but she lived for 230 years. And obviously, since we see places like Kyoshi Island, she was very well received by most people. I mean, hey, maybe I just forgot, but I don't remember hearing about a Karuk or Roku Island, do you? Even Korra, who changed the world several times over, only has a park named after her in Republic City. So for all intents and purposes, Kyoshi was very well loved as the Avatar. Plus she lived for so long that millions of people would have been born and grown up under Kyoshi. And by the time Kyoshi died, there would have been nobody left around who remembered what Karuk or any other previous Avatar was like. Kyoshi was like a goddess who had existed for so long that world peace was essentially built in her image. And when you suddenly switch from a long-lasting decisive avatar like Kyoshi to someone like Roku, who is very soft-hearted and slow to action, that change would have been very off-putting for most people that lived long enough to see both avatars in action. And if you think about it, the books that children would have been learning from for hundreds of years now only featured Kyoshi and her way of doing things. Living Legend doesn't even begin to cover it when you've lived through 11 generations of people. Then the world suddenly has Roku, who is brand new and, quite frankly, fumbling a lot. Roku put up blinders about Sozin and the Fire Nation. He gave everyone the benefit of the doubt, and that ended up causing a war. And because of that, and of course because Roku is from the Fire Nation initially, people took notice when Roku didn't show up to stop Sozin and restore balance. That's what Kyoshi would have done. So it wouldn't surprise me if people thought that Roku was so mentally weak that he was hiding from Sozin, or even worse, that Roku was complicit and actively helping the Fire Nation start a war. Which means, long video essay short, the world thought so little of Avatar Roku that they were willing to believe the worst in him, and that's partly because he is the worst Avatar that anybody can remember. Now, I do think there's room to argue that Karuk was a worse Avatar than Roku in many ways. However, by the time of Roku's death, Karuk's reign would have been 300 years in the past. So there was no public opinion left about Karuk to help boost Roku's stats. But had Sozin not existed, I think Roku would have symbolized an era of peace and tranquility instead of being the Avatar who ushered in the downfall of the world. It might not be reality, but theories are more fun. Avatar: The Last Airbender sets a beautiful stage for a very compelling story, but there are still some unresolved... Shoot, I'm not even recording down here. What in the hell am I doing? So let me refresh some... Avatar Roku was Aang's predecessor. Avatar Roku was Aang's predecessor. If that were to happen, Sozin would have the chance to raise the next Avatar. And we know that that's accurate because... Susan? No, Sozin. Not Susan. Sozin. This is not Missing Link. Well, family members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, "Hey McGann, I want to mail you something. How do I do that?" Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Family. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Fanily and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos, like you, helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, family members. Bye.